Very good afternoon to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, our program bringing you all the latest news and events happening inside the Black Continent. My name is Angie Meher and I'll be joining you for today's edition. And of course, we start straight away with a look at some of the news making the headlines. And we start with Nigeria, which expects to take delivery of 3.92 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine on Tuesday, making it the third West African country to benefit from the COVAX facility after Ghana and the Ivory Coast. Nigeria has reported fewer than 1,900 COVID-19 deaths so far, much better than had been widely predicted earlier on at the start of the pandemic. We have more details in this report. Nigeria has revealed that it will receive 3.92 million doses of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines on Tuesday. This is the third West African country to receive vaccines from the COVAX facility, a UN-backed initiative to ensure equitable distribution of vaccines globally. The vaccines made by Serum Institute of India are expected to arrive in the capital Abuja today. The country is expecting a total of 16 million doses of the vaccination that will be delivered in batches over months. Nigeria's Primary Healthcare Development Agency said that frontline health workers will be amongst the first to receive the jab. A registration portal has been opened for people to register for the vaccination. The government plans to vaccinate at least 70% of the population aged 18 years and above in 4 phases within 2 years. Nigeria has so far recorded over 150,000 cases of COVID-19 infections and nearly 2,000 deaths. And to continue with our news, the cabinet said that the country has acquired 28% of the investments directed to the continent's fintech sector, about $21.8 million US, as well as 50% of investments in logistics, mobility, as well as educational technology. We have the details. The Cabinet's Information and Decision Support Center published this week an infograph showing that Egypt tops Africa in the number of equity deals for tech startups in 2020. The infograph is based on the findings of a report entitled 2020 Africa Tech Venture Capital, issued by Partech Partners in February of 2021. Egypt saw a rise of 83% with 86 equity deals, putting it in the top spot in Africa, followed by South Africa with 72 deals and Nigeria with 71. Egypt also ranks third in the total volume of deals, with investments amounting to $269 million US, coming after Nigeria and Kenya. Egypt also acquired 28% of the investments directed to the continent's fintech sector, about $21.8 million US, as well as 50% of investments in logistics, mobility and educational technology. The value of investments in the health technology sector has amounted to about $55 million US, followed by the enterprise sector with investments of $42 million. The 2020 Africa Tech Venture Capital report monitors the digital and technological venture capital equity deals that exceed $200,000 US in African startups, excluding grants, prizes, loans, conventional debt, the venture debt, non-equity, technical assistance, post-IPO, merger and acquisition deals. And for a final story making headlines in today's edition, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that African states have proven over the past year that the repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic could not stop the progress of the African Union 2063 agenda. The President's remarks came as he inaugurated in a virtual speech the second edition of the Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development, which is being held virtually from the 1st till the 5th of March. We have more details in the story. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said on Monday that African states have proven over the past year that the repercussions of the coronavirus pandemic could not stop the progress of the African Union 2063 agenda. The President's remarks came as he inaugurated in a virtual speech the second edition of the Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development, which is held from the 1st till the 5th of March. The second edition of the Aswan Forum is organized under the theme Shaping Africa's New Normal, Recovering Stronger and Rebuilding Better. It kicked off virtually today with the participation of various African leaders. The president said coronavirus-related challenges and repercussions increase our insistence on proceeding with implementing plans and restoring construction in a better way in order to achieve the African Union 2063 agenda. The president said the forum is a chance to discuss the best ways and mechanisms to support joint efforts to recover from the pandemic. Sisi highlighted in his speech that the serious economic and social impacts of the coronavirus pandemic have contributed to worsening the dangers facing the continent, including smuggling and proliferation of weapons, human trafficking, irregular migration and forced displacement. The president also reiterated the African demand on the international community to ensure the fair distribution of the coronavirus vaccine worldwide. He called on fellow African leaders to unify efforts to support the African mechanisms which aim to prevent or settle conflicts in the continent and enhance various states' capabilities in facing ongoing threats. During his speech, the president affirmed Egypt's support for the African Continental Free Trade Area, saying that its activation earlier this year serves as a good example for the success of the African collective work. Sisi said the continent is currently in need for ambitious projects, including in the fields of transportation, roads, cross-border electricity linkage. The president affirmed Egypt's commitment to carrying out its responsibilities in post-conflict development and reconstruction through activating the AU Center for Reconstruction and Development in Egypt. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still with you here on today's edition of Africa Today, and we're delighted to be joined over the telephone by His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Hussein Hariri, former Assistant Foreign Minister. It's a very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, madam.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this afternoon. Now, the Aswan Forum is being held in Aswan, tackling various topics ranging from sustainable development goals to economic growth, as well as the repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's talk a bit about the significance of this forum. This is the second round for this forum to be held. Even though it is being held virtually, still lots of African leaders and heads of state are participating as well.
Well, the idea of the forum dates back to the Egyptian presidency of the African Union in 2019. And the main interest of Egypt in launching such an initiative was to stress the linkages between stability, conflict resolution, peace, and the prospects of durable development in Africa.
Yes.
That was the main interest of Egypt in launching this initiative. And the second round of the forum, in fact, has stressed the importance of such linkages. And in the remarks that the President Sisi delivered yesterday in the inauguration of the second round, he referred to the importance of conflict resolution and stabilization efforts in the post-conflict resolution.
Yes.
So, of course, this second round will come to an end, I guess, very soon. But I guess this Aswan Forum for peace, for durable peace and development has become a landmark in brainstorming at the African level about this relationship between peace and stability and the long-term prospects of durable development. As you may know, the African Union, the member countries in the African Union have agreed on what's called Agenda 2063. And this is a set of objectives that African countries hope to carry out
by that time.
From today, by that time. Of course, it's very challenging very challenging. And one of the challenges right now, just to give you an example, is the coronavirus pandemic.
Yes,
And
indeed.
the ability of African countries to face the economic, social impact of the pandemic.
Yes.
Having said so, I would like also to stress the serious situation of the poorly indebted African countries in meeting their financial commitments. And yesterday, in his remarks, President Sisi talked about just and fair distribution
yes.
of vaccines in Africa. And so this is in a nutshell, Madam, as I see it,
Yes.
the importance of holding regularly, once every year, such a forum.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Ambassador, to build on the wrap-up of the President's comments in the inauguration ceremony, the President also highlighted the serious economic and social impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, which have really worsened, the dangers facing the African continent. How do you see his remarks in that sense?
Well, I guess there is a consensus, not only within Africa, but worldwide.
Yes.
That Africa is one of the major victims of the pandemic. And this is, of course, there are many reasons for that. Let's say one of them is the lack of public health facilities, and as well as the lack of financial resources.
Yes.
So I guess the President made it a point yesterday to highlight this aspect of facing the coronavirus pandemic in Africa. It's a tall order, Madam, and I guess it's not only an African question; it's an international problem. I wouldn't call it a crisis, but still, the United Nations and the African Union, European Union, and African countries must cooperate together in order to enable Africa to meet the consequences and the negative impact. I wouldn't like to use the word disastrous, but the negative impact of the coronavirus on African economies and on the prospects of the implementation, the medium and long-term implementation of the Agenda 2063, whether bilaterally or at the continent level.
Absolutely. Yes. One final question, please, Mr. Ambassador. The President also lauded the Free Trade Area Agreement, saying it's a good example of how Africa's collaborative work can come to light. How do you see the progress of this free trade deal that was reached?
Well, definitely this is a major step forward, but it remains to be seen whether African countries, the signatory countries, would make it work or not. But let's hope, Madam, that it would open up good opportunities in job creation, in facilitating trade among African countries. It's as I said, it's a very ambitious plan. It's a very good step, but let's wait and see how it works out in the near future.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador, in summation, President Sisi said full recovery from the pandemic will require developing sustainable development policies, including economic, social and environmental dimensions. What's your take on this, especially for the African continent?
Well, it's a very challenging job, Madam.
Yes.
Here we have to distinguish between already laid out economic plans, like the Agenda 2063, and its linkages with the Agenda Millennial and Agenda of the United Nations 2030, and this is something, and another, and on the other hand, elaborating new policies in the economic and social spheres. That's something is not easy under the present circumstances, but still, the African countries, and within either bilaterally or regionally speaking in the 5 regional zones in Africa, or through the African Union, should get together and agree with international organizations and international financial and economic institutions, agree on a set of ad hoc economic and social policies to try, and I stress to try to contain as much as possible the negative impact, the negative effect of the pandemic on African economies.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Ambassador Hussein Haridi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you so much, sir, for your insight and for joining us.
Madam.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
It's my pleasure, madam.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for today's edition of Africa Today. We do hope you have enjoyed it. My name is Angie Meher. Many thanks for watching.